Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, Concurrent Engineering Project Collaboration and Asset Management with BlueCielo Meridian. Our presenter today is Matt Lane. He's the Director of Consulting Services with Hagerman & Company. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you're in listening only mode. If you have any questions during the presentation, just type them into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and they'll be addressed at the end of the webcast. As you exit the webcast today, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey, and we ask that you take a few moments to fill that out. With that, I'll hand things over to Matt.
Thank you, Ashley, and good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending upon what time zone you're in. Our presentation, as Ashley mentioned, we're going to be covering some of the advanced capabilities with the BlueCielo Meridian product, which I think some people that are joining us may already be aware of some of the capabilities of BlueCielo Meridian. Some people may be new to it, but I think either way, I think the presentation should hopefully work for you. A little background on Hagerman & Company. We've been implementing data and document management systems for about 20 years now, and for a lot of different companies, you can see here as we go through some of the logos of companies we've worked with, those companies tend to be in organizations that are more process-oriented, rather than discrete manufacturing, more process-oriented, like chemicals, steel, oil and gas, utility companies, pipelines, food and beverage processing, that kind of thing. And needs of those companies tend to be quite a bit different than someone who is in discrete manufacturing, designing office furniture or designing tooling and equipment. You're dealing with big plant infrastructure, pipes, vessels, buildings, all kinds of infrastructure. For data management systems for these types of organizations, we've really identified 6 different key areas. The first couple of areas would be the same as really most any company, most any manufacturing company. You need general document management capabilities, controlled document check-in, check-out, reviews and approvals, revision histories, those kinds of things. Of course, if you're involved in any kind of engineering or manufacturing, you're probably using CAD software, so you need CAD integration capabilities, whether that's AutoCAD or Autodesk Inventor or SolidWorks or MicroStation, or maybe some of the advanced Autodesk modules such as AutoCAD Electrical, PNID, Plant 3D, and so on. But now we move into some kind of unique areas, unique needs for companies in these particular industries, and really what our webinar today is going to focus on. The first one being support for engineering projects, allowing companies to separate their as-built from project copies. In most organizations like this, you've got maintenance and other people who are needing to access those as-built documents for doing their maintenance and repairs and those kinds of things. They always need access to the latest as-built. But there are also typically a lot of engineering projects going on where different pieces of equipment or areas of the plant are being modified. So you really need to get those work-in-process project documents that are either being worked on internally or being worked on by outside engineering firms separated from those as-builts. And then when those projects are done and in place, then release new as-builts for the maintenance people. Another complication is that many times there's actually overlapping projects, or what we call concurrent engineering, where the same piece of equipment or same area of the plant might be being worked on in 2 different engineering projects, maybe a small short-term project and then a larger project. And that's something we're going to see demonstrated here in a bit. Another key need is easy 24/7 search, view, print capabilities. process-oriented manufacturers and utilities tend to run 24/7, and there's maintenance staff out there working the plant round the clock, and engineering's not always there. So a key need is to have an easy-to-use interface so that maintenance can find what they need at 2 o'clock Sunday morning to get that piece of equipment repaired and back up and going again. Another key area is collaboration with outside parties. More and more we're seeing that the bulk of the engineering design work is not being done by in-house engineering or CAD staff. It's being done by outside engineering firms. So there's a lot of documents and drawings going back and forth between the company and their outside suppliers. And then the company itself is typically more providing project management, document coordination, maybe some drafting, but the bulk of that engineering and CAD work is being done on the outside. So need a good way to collaborate and synchronize with those outside parties, and that's something else we'll be discussing here. And then the final key requirement is the linking of documents to related assets. You know, we talked about having an easy 24/7 search view print interface where you could search for a drawing, but typically you're searching for a drawing that relates to a specific piece of equipment. So you might know the tag number on the piece of equipment, and then from there you want to get the documents. So it would be much better if you could just go to the piece of equipment you're interested in and then automatically grab all the documents for it. And that's something else we're going to be discussing and showing here in the presentation. And in a demonstration here that's going to be coming up, what you're going to see is, I think, a typical scenario where, in this case, via Maximo, an example maintenance or asset management system. You know, there's others out there, SAP Preventive Maintenance, Oracle, Archibus, really works the same with all of them. But in the case of our presentation via Maximo, maintenance locates and marks up a drawing for a small required change. Then once they've done that markup, engineering is going to automatically receive an email notification of the markup from maintenance with a link to the marked up document. Engineering will then see that this drawing where maintenance is requesting or notifying of a small change is actually assigned to a major project. So now we've got some concurrent engineering going on. The drawing is going to go ahead and be assigned to a work in process folder designed for handling small changes like this. The new master or as-built is going to be updated when the small change is done, and then it will be flagged and notified that as a result of this, the copy of the drawing that's being worked on in the major project folder is out of date and will be flagged on that so that the major project copy can be synchronized with the newly updated master or as-built. So you're not getting those changes all out of sync with each other and then, down the road have to try to put it all back together again. And then work on the major project can continue. The first thing we want to talk about, since the first thing you're going to see used in the presentation is the asset management module or the maintenance integration. The BlueCielo, their asset management module, some of the major features of it are the ability, like we talked about, to link engineering and other documents to your equipment records so that you can easily search and retrieve all of the documents related to a specific piece of equipment. So they're all there and they're all the latest release. Or you can also find all the pieces of equipment related to a specific document. So before you change a document, you can see all the pieces of equipment that are going to be impacted by that. And we'll see in the presentation how all this information and these relationships are fully integrated within the BlueCielo Meridian data management client or can integrate inside of your current maintenance system. And just kind of showing this graphically. So over here, the engineering department with our Meridian system that's managing all the drawings and documents, revision management, red lines and markups, drawing history, and so on. Then over here is our maintenance system, which again could be SAP, Maximo, Oracle, pretty much any other system out there that's tracking information on all your assets and all the detailed information, has all those asset records in there. Then also you can do your maintenance scheduling and work orders, where the idea is either from an asset record or a work order record, click a button, and you've got all the documents related to the piece of equipment in a single click. And here you can see inside Maximo Client, we can see our equipment record, equipment number, its parent, description, supplier information, replacement costs, and then with the click of one button, this window will come up, and here's all the drawings and documents related to that piece of equipment. And then this information and these links and relationships are available inside the main Meridian desktop power user client or power web client. Meridian has a 24/7 search view print client called the Explorer, and all of the equipment records, documents, and their relationships are available in there, or again can be retrieved directly from the maintenance system user interface. So I think the advantages are kind of obvious. Maintenance is more productive, got more wrench time, because before they do something, they're not having to search around through computers or through file cabinets to find documents. Also don't have to go into engineering to have engineering's help in finding the correct document, which keeps engineering more free and productive. So your equipment repairs get done more quickly, so downtime is reduced, fewer errors because people aren't using incorrect or outdated documents, which of course relates to better plant safety, better maintenance of certification, and licenses to operate. The current process, of course, maintenance planning creates a work order, maintenance operations receives the work order, then they got to go find the documents, which is a non-value added task, may require engineering assistance, then they do the work. Where with the asset management in place, maintenance planning does the work order, operations receives it, they don't have to go looking for drawings, they just go right to work. Now just to get a quick introduction to what this looks like inside the main Meridian Power User client that engineering would use, we're going to take a look at a quick presentation here. And this,
in this video, we will be looking at how BlueCielo can be used to manage engineering content in relation to your asset management system. Basic knowledge of the BlueCielo Power User Client is recommended before viewing this tutorial. For this demonstration, we will be using an BlueCielo Vault that has been configured with the BlueCielo Asset Management module. This module is used to connect engineering documents in the BlueCielo Vault to objects and tags in your asset management system. The BlueCielo Asset Management module adds the following predefined folder structure to the BlueCielo environment. Tasks built to manage the functional plant structure, objects to manage all objects like control books, tags, equipment, pipes and lines, and projects for design, engineering, and construction projects. To begin with, we will be working from the object level. The objects found in your vault correspond to the objects in your asset management system. If we select an object in the vault, we have a couple of property pages at our disposal. The first one is Object Details. The property page gives more information about the functional location and other details of the object we have currently selected. The next property page is the Where Used page. A key benefit of this page is the ability to manage the relationship between the object and the documents attached to the currently selected object. If we select one of the linked documents, there are a number of key features available to us. Let's have a look at each one. Go to Document. Clicking this button will navigate away from the object we have selected and set the focus on the document. View Full Screen. This will launch a full-screen viewer in which the document can be viewed. Report. Pressing this button will generate a simple Excel-based report of all documents attached to this object. And Show Viewer. This will show a smaller viewer window. If we now go into edit mode for this object, another button becomes available to us. The Add or Remove Documents button will bring up a new dialog with which you can add or remove document links for this object. Using this dialog is very simple. The top half of the dialog shows you the documents that can be linked to the object. Usually this section will be empty as it is filled using search strings. The bottom half of the dialog shows the documents that are already linked to the object. In this instance, we enter the string AT in the document name field. We then make sure that the document type field is set to any and press the search button on the right. You will see that a whole list of documents has been generated from our search criteria. You can, of course, make the search criteria more detailed to reduce the number of returned results. Once you have found the documents you would like to link, simply select the documents in the top section of the dialog and press the Create Link button. Alternatively, you can break the link of a document and an object by selecting the desired document in the bottom half of the dialog and pressing the Remove Link button. Now we will have a look at how you can work from the document point of view. With the document selected,
and I don't think we actually need to see that because it's actually exactly the same, just in reverse, where you can go to a document and then link objects or equipment records to it. Now, what you were seeing there, that's a nice, easy-to-use user interface. That's getting those equipment and documents linked manually, which is a one-time process and takes about the same amount of time as finding documents using your current processes, with the advantage being that it never has to be repeated again for future work orders on that piece of equipment, which of course now you'd have to continually do that over and over again. So that's kind of the worst case scenario for getting those equipment records and documents linked. However, the BlueCielo Asset Management module supports automated linking of equipment records and documents. There are tools built in to the Asset Management module that can read your AutoCAD drawings. So for instance, if you have P&IDs with blocks or symbols, and those blocks have attributes like equipment number, the Asset Management module can read those drawings and then automatically link them up to the equipment records that have been brought in. And there's all kinds of filtering and wildcarding. So that if the matches aren't exact, rules can be applied to match those up. Also, if you just have text labels, like EQ-12345 on a drawing, that can be used to link drawings to equipment records. Also has full integration with AutoCAD P&ID to read its database for linking objects. You can also, if you have a spreadsheet, that lists equipment records, equipment records and document names, that can automatically be imported and read and linked up. You can also do folder-based linking. So an equipment record is linked to all the documents in a folder or any new documents that come into it. You can also link up based on Meridian properties. So if you have a keywords field in Meridian that includes the equipment numbers related to a document, or for instance a property called equipment number, then those things can be linked up automatically. Then looking at this from an ROI standpoint, looking at, we did this sample analysis, current annual operating costs versus upfront year one costs for implementing the asset management module, buying the software, getting trained, getting it implemented, calculating in how much time it would take you to link the documents. The typical ROI calculation you can see, in this case it's like 1.4 years for return on investment. So this is a tool, we think that there's a very high return on investment, and this also doesn't even factor in the improved safety and reduced downtime, that kind of thing. At this point, I want to get into kind of the integrated demonstration with a presentation from Chris Angridis from BlueCielo ECM Solutions. First off, we're going to take a look at the first part of our demo workflow that we mentioned, where maintenance is in the asset management or maintenance system, finds a document, marks it up, and submits it to engineering. So we are going to take a look at that here in just a second. Bear with me just a second while I get that.
Hello, everyone.
Going.
To that. So what we see here is Maximo, a normal implementation of Maximo, and the user is on a piece of equipment, a centrifugal pump in this case. And it would be really nice to be able to see all the technical documentation that's related to this piece of equipment. And with the integration, we could put a button on the screen here, or in this case, we've added a button on the toolbar, and all the user has to do is click once, and they'll get a listing of all the technical documentation about this piece of equipment, from process diagrams, from maintenance manuals, from owner's manuals, etc. Okay, so what we see here is a P&ID, and we want to get more information about it. We want to denote what has changed in the field from the maintenance perspective. So simply click on the document, and we'll see the released version of the document. For example, this is the released drawing, and of course we're sharing a PDF file. Now we also notice a couple of comments that are being made on it historically. An engineer denoted that a change project is going to add a second line, and they also redlined it. And we can see from the red line that this is the area that we anticipate seeing the changes. So this conversation-style discussion is available for the user, the maintenance user, to see and be aware of potential changes in this document. And what he's going to do is denote what has happened. Let's say, for example, we removed and valve from the field, and if the user has a picture or some other kind of reference, they can also attach it as part of the record. So this becomes part of the conversation that the user now is participating in. And as I navigate through and look at each of these discussions, we can see that the removed hand valve and the image that I just attached is part of the conversation cycle here. What I'm also going to do is mark up the drawing and show where on this P&ID the valve existed. So I'm going to zoom into the area that I'm going to redline, and with the markup tools, denote that this valve was removed, and even add more information here. For example, removed old and valve no longer in use. Okay, And this note, of course, is going to stay with the document as the document and the commenting progresses. And what's interesting is that my red line I just created here, let me zoom out so we can see everything. My red line I just created here is actually independent of the red line from the engineer user. I can click on either one of them. I can see independently which one, which red line was made by each person. Okay, so let me close that. And what I'm going to do is go back to the presentation to see where I am.
All right, so that's the first part of our demo where we've seen how maintenance has used the tool to find a drawing, do a markup, and submit it to engineering. And what we're going to see next is engineering making use of the Advanced Project Workflow module and its concurrent engineering capabilities to find that the change that maintenance has made affects a drawing that's actually out for change on another project. And I think this slide here kind of does a good job of graphically showing that, where we've got a picture here of a large some kind of chemical plant, and the yellow boxes denote engineering projects that are going on somewhere throughout that plant. And what you can see noted is we've got some small projects and some larger projects and some overlapping projects where the same area of the plant is under change in a couple of different projects. And that gets really complicated in being able, to manage those overlapping ongoing projects while keeping the as-built available for maintenance. And that's what this tool is designed to do. Or the Advanced Project Workflow, and again, this is another way that kind of shows it graphically, is, here this project 2 is a long-term project. While project 2 is going on, all or portions of project 1, 3, and 4 have also happened. And each one, of course, has an engineering phase, a construction phase, and then when the construction phase is done, the new as-builts are generated. And then you can see, for instance here, when project 1 is complete, its as-built needs to get passed into project 2, so the changes from project 1 and project 2 can get merged together. So I think this graphic also does a nice job of showing that interaction. So now we want to take a look at the engineering and concurrent engineering portion of things. This is a little bit longer presentation from Chris, so I'll go ahead and get that queued up here.
And I noticed that just now we received an email that red lines in the following documents were changed. And the notifications, of course, can be configured, can be built from templates, etc. In this case, we tell the maintenance the engineering manager where the release document is, and also let them know of a couple of different links. They can launch the powered user client or the web client from made by the maintenance person. So we'll make a decision here to go ahead and make a change. We'll go ahead and make this change. Now, at the same time, let me click on the document tab. We see that there's actually another project copy checked out. From this perspective, the engineering manager can see the other project copy. For example, in this case, this is the master document, and clicking on the project copy shows us it's in the major construction project, and we can see what's going on with those. We can compare those documents as well. I'll compare this a little bit later on when we make changes to this document as part of our maintenance change. So I'm okay with that, and now we're going to go ahead and add this document to a work in progress project, which is a small work order project. From the context menu, the engineering manager can simply create a project copy. Now in this case, we're going to be creating, of course, a second project copy. The first one is in the major construction project. We're going to go ahead and make one in the work in progress, for example, a small work order project. So in this case, we're going to be making a second project copy. This dialog box is pretty interesting because the master document has a couple of CAD references. Pump and a vessel document are being referenced into it as a CAD reference. So in this case, we want to copy these guys into the project as well because they might change. And in this case, those are not going to change, and I'm going to leave them where they are. So that's very powerful to allow me to take those reference documents and put them into the project as well. Okay. So we'll let the system create our project copy. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and verify that we do indeed have two project copies. Remember earlier I used this construction icon, this master project browser, to show me the relationship between the master document, and now we have two project copies. And they're both connected to the same master document, and that's perfectly fine within Meridian's concurrent engineering functionality. So what we're going to do here at the same time, we mentioned earlier, we're going to take this document and assign it to a user. A lot of our customers have a document controller or a design manager that delegates the work. Sometimes our customers will take the drawing and start modifying themselves. Edit or order. Okay. So now the document is ready to go, and the user can start changing it. Now, the user, I mentioned the user. Since we're going to say this is an engineering manager that's in the office that had just delegated the work, let's go ahead and exit this program, and let's see what email message a designer is going to get. So this is a potential notification that's being sent to the designer. And remember earlier our scenario, the designer is going to be working from home or remotely, for example. And in this case, they'll get a couple of links. For example, the web link in this case we'll use to jump to the document. And this is using the web client, and of course this can be, the user can be anywhere, home, remote site, etc. And they'll understand that they need to work. And right from here, we'll go ahead and open the document. And it will take care of updating references for me, updating any kind of connections, updating metadata, and the user can now start making the changes. And we're going to make the changes in model space, so let me switch to model space. And let me zoom into the area we're going to make a change here. And the simple change we're going to make is simply removing this hand valve, and just press delete. That is done. And if we're done, and in this case the designer is finished, we'll zoom out, make sure things look okay. Things look okay in the layout, and if we need to, we can always update the vault or update the properties from Meridian directly from our CAD application. And this also works directly from the web application too. So let's close our document, and we'll minimize CAD because we're going to use it later. And as far as the designer is concerned, they're finished. They simply upload the document to the server and pass it on to the next step of the workflow. For example, in this case, we're going to go ahead and start the review. Now, the review process, of course, is going to depend on design done. The review process is going to depend on any kind of workflow process or workflow mechanism you guys have configured. In this case, I'm asking the designer to say, hey, what is this change for? It's for an as-built. And as far as the designer is concerned, they're done. They can close this card. For example, this document is now in review. and they can close this card and go on to work on other documents that are in their projects. And of course, using the navigation capabilities, they can filter and show only their documents and continue working. So let's leave the designer from their home office, and we'll go back to the corporate office where the engineering manager is checking their email, and we see that they are now the to-do person for this document, which is now at revision C1, which now needs their approval. Very simply, we jump to the Power User Client, and again, these links put you directly on the document at hand. For example, in this case, it's our project document, and it just needs to be reviewed. Let me turn on the viewer to make sure the geometry is up to date. Yep, looks like the geometry is up to date from our designer. And in this case, what I'd like to do is compare the documents and see what kind of changes have been made, especially compared to the last released or even the next project that's out there. And to do this, I'm going to use the project browser again to show me, and I can compare now one project copy. I'm going to hold down the control key and highlight the next one. What needs to happen to this document to compare it to this document, which is my other project copy. In this case, we'll get a compare window that will show us the original document, which is the one that our drafter just changed in the top left, and the next project copy in the other window. And of course, in the third window, we'll see all the changes. I'm going to zoom into a part of it here, and we see that the valve that we removed is still in the other project copy. And we see the other project also added the other line and also removed another valve here. Very easy to see and compare. Also, the comparison goes beyond that. It goes into the properties as well. For example, we see the revision number has changed, and also the properties have changed. For example, title have changed, I see here. So all those comparisons are available. So we're done with that. Let's go ahead and close it out. And from the perspective of the manager, we're done, and we go ahead and approve this document. And this approval status is approved. We're done. So now we're ready to release it as a master. And in this case, we're going to notify everyone that's interested. For example, the maintenance workers. Okay. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just tell the system to, there we go, to release the document as a master. And keep in mind that this is the very first document that's being released. The next project, we'll see that these options may change because we now have a new master. We'll get to those in a second. As soon as we do this, notice one thing that's happening in addition to all this discussion. Our project copy is actually automatically put into an archive location. This archive location can trigger your company's document retention rules. We'll go ahead and shrink this out in a second. And now we see our brand new revision, our brand new master, and we can see that this document now has one project copy checked out, which is the major construction project. And it's all red with all kinds of notifications that say, by the way, the master document has changed since this project copy was checked out, which is very important. Okay, so let me pause for a second. And
all right, so hopefully that gives you a good idea of how that process works. And now I want to jump ahead and show a couple of the, Chris is going to show a couple of the tools available to merge in those changes. So we're going to move to that area next.
We're done with email for a while, and here we are in Meridian looking at the latest master of this drawing. Excuse me. And we do see that we have project copy checked out still, and this is our major project copy, and we compared it as well. So we know we need to give it some attention before we release it. Now, the changes that have been incorporated here are the ones that came back from the contractor. So what I'd like to do is jump to this document, and what we need to do now is essentially merge the changes and then release this as a new master. Now, how do I know we need to merge the changes? Some of the concurrent engineering functionality that's implemented allows the user to check on this and be able to know what's going on with it. For example, I am not allowed to release this as a master just yet. That option is not available because we have a newer master than this project copy. That's very important. So what we need to do is confirm that we merge the geometry. And that's what we're going to do right now is merge the geometry. Let me switch back because that was actually one topic that compared.
So at that point, the merging is really an AutoCAD function where that main project copy is edited, copy, paste, edit, either from the new master or from the project copy, and then you can confirm that it has been brought up to date, so then you can continue on and then release it as a new master when you're done. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the tools and how that works, and hopefully that's ringing some bells with the kind of workflows that you do within your organization and some of the challenges that you have. And again, this kind of summarizes the workflow that we went through. But one thing here is, this was all really done as kind of an internal, inside your company workflow. However, as we mentioned at the beginning, a lot more work is being done outside your organization. And that's where the BlueCielo Meridian Project Portal comes in. So, so far we looked at, master data in our masters or as-built folder, work in progress data inside project folders and using the advanced project workflow. All of that information is in the Meridian system on your internal network. But now with the project portal and its data exchange capabilities, it extends all this functionality so that you can integrate work from outside engineering firms and contractors into that same workflow. The project portal is not actually released yet. It's coming out this fall. I want to go ahead and preview it and talk about it a little bit. And it's really designed, as this graphic shows, for really complex supplier networks. So a company's got multiple first-level suppliers sending information back and forth, contractor, and then those first-level suppliers may have suppliers of their own. The project portal is designed to synchronize down to multiple levels to keep your projects on track. And then all the changes synchronized back to your vault. So some of the key capabilities of the project portal gives notifications. In the project portal cloud, there's viewing and redlining capabilities built in, full audit trail, so every touch of a document by an outside party is tracked, the ability to mass upload document changes in batches and read data from an Excel file, tools for work packages like handling, setting up recipient lists, setting due dates with reminders and warnings, gathering online reviews, gathering comments, doing submittals, lots of reporting and dashboards built in. The project portal actually has its own full document control environment there in the cloud, but then it can also be then set up to automatically synchronize with the Meridian server in your office. And just some scenarios you might see. So in Meridian, inside the Meridian Vault within your company, somebody might create a new project. Well, then with the synchronization, that project folder will then automatically be created in the project portal, and then you can assign contractors to that project portal. And then in Meridian, like we saw with the advanced project workflow, documents can be assigned to the project, then they will be automatically synchronized to the project portal, where they're under full security available for the outside engineering firms to download and work on. They make their modifications, goes back up to the project portal, which can then synchronize down to an incoming files folder in Meridian where they're reviewed and verified, and then the project in Meridian updated, and then once it's approved, your new masters or as-built would be released. So it kind of takes what you saw earlier and extends it out beyond your firewall. And then a couple of these other slides just showing some different variances in work scenarios that can be handled with the project portal. Here's one in a case where there's actually external document controllers, like external project management, so like a main engineering firm or like an EPC firm who's really overseeing the whole project. They've got their own document control for the project as well, besides your internal document controllers. Here's an example of working in that scenario. So things go back through the EPC and then back to your organization. So the project portal actually can be implemented in two different ways. It can be on-premise, so it's based on a Microsoft SharePoint backbone, be installed on-premise within your company, or in the cloud. And the cloud is really I think the preferred way to go for most people. And I think the benefits of this are obvious: improved efficiency, reduced cost, optimized quality, regulatory compliance. Don't want to run through all of these bullets for you, but I think you can kind of see from the workflows and comparing that to some of the challenges that you have, some real benefits there. And there's cloud-based systems. The unique thing is, there's internal document management systems that are out there, and there's cloud-based collaboration portals out there as well. With this, it brings everything together. And here are some of the companies currently using, BlueCielo customers using some of these modules. So at this point, that concludes what I had down to show. And just summarizing, we looked at concurrent engineering with the advanced project workflow module, project collaboration using the project portal, and then maintenance integration with the asset management module. So at this point, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. And as Ashley mentioned at the beginning, you can type in your questions using the question panel in GoToWebinar. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up on my end, see if we have any questions here yet. I don't think we do. No, we don't. So we can go ahead and hold things open for a couple of minutes to give people time to enter any questions they might have, or you can always contact us later or offline as well for any follow-up questions. And while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, Ashley, do you have any closing information for our attendees today?
Well, we do have, if you do have any additional questions you think of later, you can just respond to that GoToWebinar invite email that you received, and we can forward those on to Matt and get those answered for you. Also, if you could take a few moments to answer the short survey. We would appreciate it. It automatically appears when you close down the session today. And if there's nothing further, I think this will conclude our broadcast. Thank you for attending today and have a great day. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, everyone.